The third floor that shouldn't exist. I've been a janitor at Riverside High School for almost 15 years now. I've seen a lot of weird stuff in that time. Kids doing things they shouldn't, teachers having breakdowns in empty classrooms, that sort of thing. But nothing, and I mean nothing, prepared me for what I found on the third floor. Now, here's the thing you need to understand. Riverside only has 2 floors. Always has. I know every inch of that building. Every corner, every closet, every water-stained ceiling tile. It's a 1960s construction, built low and wide because of some zoning thing with the airport nearby. 2 floors. That's it. It was a Tuesday night in October. I remember because the Halloween decorations were starting to go up, and I'd spent the better part of an hour scraping fake cobwebs off the cafeteria windows. The school was empty, had been for about 2 hours. Just me, my cart, and the sound of my keys jangling as I made my rounds. I was on the 2nd floor, finishing up the East Wing bathrooms. That's when I heard it. Music. Faint. Tinny. Like it was coming from an old radio. Big Ben stuff, the kind my grandfather used to listen to. I stopped mopping and listened. It was definitely coming from above me. That's impossible, I said out loud. But there it was, music from a 3rd floor that didn't exist. I'm not an idiot. I know how buildings work. But curiosity got the better of me. I left my mop bucket and followed the sound. It led me to the west stairwell, the one nobody uses because it's always locked from the 2nd floor up. Except tonight, it wasn't locked. The door was propped open with a brick I'd never seen before. Old, red clay, the kind they don't make anymore. The stairwell was dark. The motion sensors didn't kick in. I pulled out my flashlight, one of those heady mag lights that doubles as a weapon if you need it to, and started climbing. The music got louder with each step. Glenn Miller, I think. In the Mood or something like that. The stairs just kept going. Up and up. I counted 30 steps before I reached a landing that absolutely should not have been there. And there was a door. Not a modern fire door like the rest of the school. This was old wood, painted institutional green, with a frosted glass window that had Floor 3 stenciled on it in black letters. My hands were shaking as I pushed it open. The hallway on the other side looked like it was from a different time. The floor was checkered linoleum, black and white, perfectly clean. The walls were that pale green color they used in the 50s, with dark wood trim. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, casting everything in a sickly glow. And the lockers? God, the lockers were those old, tall ones, dark green metal, with combination locks, not the modern ones we have now. The music was coming from somewhere down the hall. I started walking, my footsteps echoing on that linoleum. Every classroom door I passed had that same frosted glass, and I could see shadows moving inside, shadows of students sitting at desks, but when I looked through the glass, the rooms were empty. Just old wooden desks in neat rows and blackboards with lessons still written on them in perfect cursive. Room 301, room 302, room 303. The music was loudest at room 307. I shouldn't have opened that door. I know that now. But I did. The classroom was full. Not with people, but with things that looked like people. Students sitting at those old desks wearing clothes from the 1950s, poodle skirts and Letterman jackets and sandal shoes. They were all facing forward, perfectly still, watching something at the front of the room. And there was a teacher up there, writing on the blackboard. She was wearing a gray suit and her hair was in a tight bun. She didn't turn around when I entered. "Excuse me," I said. My voice came out as a whisper. "This area is off limits." That's when they all turned to look at me, in perfect unison. Their faces, God, their faces were blank. Not like mannequins, but like someone had erased their features. Just smooth skin where eyes and noses and mouths should be. But I could feel them looking at me. The teacher finally turned around. She had a face, but It was wrong. Her smile was too wide, stretched across her face like it had been cut there. Her eyes were black. Not just the pupils, but the entire eye, like looking into two holes. "Class, we have a visitor. Please make him feel welcome." They all stood up, at once, the sound of 30 chairs scraping against linoleum. And they started walking towards me. I ran. I'm not ashamed to admit it. I dropped my flashlight and ran back into that hallway. Behind me, I could hear them following. Not running, just walking. A steady, shuffling march. And that music kept playing, getting faster and faster. I hit that stairwell door so hard I nearly ripped it off its hinges. I flew down those stairs, 3 at a time, not caring if I fell. I just needed to get back to the second floor, to the real school, to anything that made sense. When I burst through the door at the bottom, I was back in the normal stairwell. The brick was gone, the door to the 3rd floor was gone. It was just a wall, like it had always been. But I could still hear that music, faint, coming from somewhere above me. And I could hear footsteps on stairs that shouldn't exist. I didn't finish my shift that night. I grabbed my car keys from the janitor's office and I left. Didn't even clock out. I sat in my car in the parking lot for an hour, shaking, staring up at the school. It only had 2 floors. 2 normal, ordinary floors. But on the roof, barely visible in the darkness, I could see shadows moving. Silhouettes of people dancing to music I could no longer hear. I came back the next day. Had to. Bills don't pay themselves. I told myself it was stress or bad cafeteria food or carbon monoxide from the old boiler. But I knew better. I knew what I had seen. I never use the west stairwell anymore. Never go near it. And on Tuesday nights in October, when I'm cleaning the 2nd floor and I hear that music starting up above me, I pack up my cart early and I leave. The other janitors think I'm crazy. They joke about it. They say, "Jerry's scared of the ghost floor." Let 'em joke. They haven't seen what I've seen. They haven't looked into those blank faces and those black, black eyes. Last week, a new kid started at the school. Transfer student. I saw him in the hallway and I swear to God he looked familiar. It took me until that night to realize why. He was wearing a Letterman jacket. Old style, like from the 50s. Vintage, maybe. And when he smiled at me, just for a second, his smile was too wide. Just a little too wide. I'm putting in my notice next month. 15 years is enough. Whatever's on that 3rd floor, it's been there a lot longer than me, and it'll be there long after I'm gone. But I don't think it's satisfied with just existing anymore. I think it wants to come down. And God help us all when it does.
The Basement Protocol.
Every job has its rules. When I got hired at Northside Medical Center as a night custodian, they gave me a handbook. Standard stuff, proper disposal of medical waste, cleaning protocols for operating rooms, safety procedures around biohazards. But there was one section that wasn't standard at all. It was a single page printed on different paper than the rest of the handbook. Older paper, yellow at the edges. At the top, in bold letters, it said, Basement Level 3 Protocol. The rules were simple. Never enter Basement Level 3 alone. If you hear knocking on the pipes, leave immediately. Do not acknowledge anyone you see in the corridors after 2 a.m. If you find a door open that should be locked, close it, but do not look inside. Under no circumstances should you enter room B313. If the lights in the main corridor go out, count to 60 before moving. Trust your instincts. If something feels wrong, it is. "What's this about?" I asked my supervisor, a tired-looking woman named Carol, who'd been there 20 years. She looked at the page, and her expression went flat. Just follow the rules, all of them, no exceptions. But what's in basement level 3? Storage, old files, equipment we don't use anymore. She paused. And other things. What kind of other things? She looked me dead in the eyes. The kind of things that are better left alone. The kind of things that stay in the basement because they need to. Do you understand? I didn't. Not then, but I do now. Northside Medical Center is old, built in 1923, back when they didn't worry so much about things like patient comfort or ethical medical practices. But the basement is original. 3 levels, going deeper into the earth than seems necessary. Basement 1 is laundry and utilities. Basement 2 is storage and the morgue. Basement 3 is... well, that's the question, isn't it? I managed to avoid it for my first 2 weeks. I cleaned the upper floors, did the ER, stayed in the well-lit areas where nurses and doctors walked by, and the world made sense. But eventually, they needed someone to do a deep clean of Basement 3. Budget cuts meant they couldn't justify having 2 custodians on the night shift anymore. It was just me. Carol pulled me aside before my shift, and she said, "Remember the rules, all of them. And take this." She pressed something into my hand. It was a small silver cross on a chain. "I'm not religious," I started to say, but she cut me off. "Neither am I, but you'll want it anyway. Trust me." I went down at 11 p.m., giving myself plenty of time before the 2 a.m. cutoff in Rule 3. The elevator only goes to Basement 2, so you have to take the stairs the rest of the way. They're concrete, narrow, and they spiral down into darkness. The stairwell smells like mildew and something else, something sweet and rotten, like flowers left too long in a vase. The door to Basement 3 is metal, heavy, with a small window reinforced with wire mesh. I used my key card, and it clicked open. The sound echoed down into the darkness below. The main corridor is long and lined with doors. The ceiling is low, crossed with pipes and ducts. Fluorescent lights flicker overhead, giving everything a stuttering, unstable quality. It's cold down there. Not just cool, but genuinely cold. I could see my breath. I propped the stairwell door open. Rule 1 says never enter alone, but it doesn't say what to do when you have no choice. And I got my cart. Industrial cleaner, mop, trash bags, standard gear. I started at the far end of the corridor, working my way back towards the exit. The first hour was fine, quiet. The only sounds were my mop sloshing and the occasional creak of the building settling. The doors were all labeled, B301, B302, B303. Most were locked. The ones that weren't led to storage rooms, full of dusty boxes and old equipment. Ancient X-ray machines, wheelchairs from the 40s, filing cabinets full of patient records written in faded ink. Then I got to B313. The door was at the end of a side corridor. Unlike the others, it wasn't labeled with a number, just a sign that said, "Authorized personnel only, no exceptions." There were 3 different locks on it, and chains, actual chains, wrapped around the door handle and padlocked. I remembered Rule 5. Under no circumstances should you enter room B313. I wasn't going to. I was just going to mop around it and move on. But as I got closer, I heard something from inside the room, scratching, like fingernails on wood, and then a voice, muffled by the door. "Help me!" It was a woman's voice, weak, terrified. "Please, I've been in here so long. Please, let me out. Every instinct I had told me to run, but there was someone in there, someone who needed help. I couldn't just... Please, I'm so cold. I just want to go home. I reached for the door handle. The chains rattled. The scratching got louder, more frantic. And then I remembered Carol's face when she had given me the cross. The fear in her eyes, the weight in her voice when she'd said, "Trust me." I stepped back from the door. The voice changed immediately. The fear dropped away, replaced by something else, something ancient and angry. "Let me out!" The door shook in its frame. The chains rattled violently. The lights in the corridor flickered, and I heard other voices join the first. Dozens of them. Men, women, children, all screaming to be released. The sound built and built until it was deafening, until I thought my ears would bleed. Then it stopped. Silence. Complete and total. The door was still. The chains hung loose, and in that tiny wire mesh window, I saw something move. A face, pressing against the glass from the inside. Pale. Wrong. The features constantly shifting like water, never settling into a stable form. It smiled at me. 100 teeth in a mouth that was too wide. I ran, abandoned my cart, and ran for the stairwell. Behind me, I heard pipes starting to knock. Slow at first, then faster. Boom, boom, boom. A rhythm that chased me down the corridor. Rule 2. If you hear knocking on the pipes, leave immediately. I was halfway to the exit when the lights went out. Complete darkness. I couldn't see my hand in front of my face, and I could hear something moving in the dark with me. Footsteps, wet, dragging, coming closer. Rule 6. If the lights go out, count to 60. I forced myself to stand still, to count, to not run screaming into the darkness. 1, 2, 3. The footsteps got closer. Something brushed against my shoulder, something cold and damp. 10, 11, 12. Breathing, right next to my ear. Not human breathing. Too slow, too deep. 20, 21, 22. At 60, the lights came back on. I was alone in the corridor. My cart was gone, and every single door was open. Every one, lined the hallway on both sides, swung wide, revealing darkness inside each room. And in that darkness, I could see shapes, figures, watching me. Rule 3. Do not acknowledge anyone you see in the corridors after 2 a.m. I checked my watch. 2:07. Rule 4. If you find a door open that should be locked, close it, but do not look inside. I started walking, eyes forward. I closed each door as I passed it, one by one, never looking inside, even though I could feel things in there. Feel them watching me. Feel them reaching. Some of the doors didn't want to close. I had to push hard, and I could feel resistance from the other side, something pushing back. The last door was B313. The chains were on. The last door was B313. The chains were on the floor. All 3 locks were open. The door was ajar. I didn't think. I just grabbed it and slammed it shut, threw the locks, wrapped the chains back around. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely manage the padlocks. As I locked the last one, I heard that voice again, right on the other side of the door, inches from my face. You'll see us again, Janitor. Very soon. I don't know how I made it back to the stairwell. Don't remember climbing the stairs. The next thing I knew, I was in the basement 2 hallway, and Carol was there. It's like she'd been waiting. You followed the rules, she said. It wasn't a question. I nodded. Couldn't speak. Good. Most don't the first time. We've lost 3 custodians to basement 3 over the years. They just don't come back up. What is that place? What's in room B313? She shook her head. Nobody knows. Not anymore. Whatever records existed were destroyed decades ago. But the hospital was built on the site of an old asylum. Before that, it was a plague hospital during the 1918 flu. Before that, she trailed off. Some places accumulate darkness, layer after layer of suffering and death. Eventually, that darkness becomes something else, something that's aware, something that's hungry. Why keep it? Why not just seal it off? We tried that. In 1976, they filled the entire level with concrete. 3 months later, the concrete was gone. Just gone. And the doors were all open again. So now we maintain it. We follow the protocols. We keep it contained. And if we don't? Carol looked toward the elevator, toward the upper floors where patients slept and doctors made their rounds, and the world went on as normal. Let's not find out. I still work at Northside, still clean those floors, but I never go to basement 3 alone anymore. Carol makes sure there are always 2 of us, minimum. We follow the rules, every single one. Last week they hired a new night custodian, young guy, fresh out of college, working his way through nursing school. I saw Carol give him the handbook. I saw his face when he read that yellow page. "What's this about?" he asked. I looked at Carol. She looked at me, and I said the same thing she'd said to me. Just follow the rules. Every single one. No exceptions. Because some places are better left unquestioned. Some doors are better left locked. And some things that live in the dark should stay there. But every night at 2 a.m., when I'm cleaning the 2nd floor directly above basement 3, I can hear them moving around down there, testing the doors, waiting. And I know it's only a matter of time before the rules aren't enough anymore.